lots of meetings over the last.
Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Today is Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Mr. Chris DeWitt.
Oh, thank you very much. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Garber.
Thank you for allowing us to use the American Legion post for constituents.
Happy to do it.
Item number 3, resignation. Tom M. Keene, Republican, 310 Old Post Road, term 11/21/11/25. Doesn't say it on here, but I believe it is the Bike Ped Commission. Right?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Tom, for your work on the Bike Ped Commission over the years. Item number 4, Ethics Commission. To hear an update on the Ethics Commission is who'll be giving the update? Oh, Will.
Yes.
This is an update by you on the status of the Ethics Commission, right? And is it a
Yes.
Q&A or are you going to give us a quick run through?
I'm happy to give you a quick run through, organized by the current organization, then website updates, and then just volume in the portal. So there's been, I believe, full turnover of the commission since August of 2023. And we just recently got approval for a 5th and full commission member who will join, my understanding is the next meeting, which is next week. So that'll be our first meeting with a full 5-member quorum in quite some time. So from a constitution perspective, like, we're very happy to have a full roster again. We've recently made some updates to the website in partnership with Town IT, which we're appreciative of. Updated it to align better with other town boards, committees, and commissions. We reduced the total content by about 50% to make it a bit more digestible for the public, and also called out explicit references to the town charter and the code of ethics so the public can better understand where our powers, but also our limits come from. And then also just increased some opportunities to contact the commission, including through the anonymous portal, anonymous phone line, paper mail, and then also a website submission form for anyone who might find it difficult to navigate the portal, but would still like to submit in the moment. So all of that done in an effort to increase accessibility, but also better illustrate what our scope is and our purpose to make sure that folks understand what our remit is. Which is a good segue into the volumes. So my understanding from previous commission members was that prior to the online portal, so 2023 and prior, average complaints or requests for investigation per year sat at about 2 or 3. In 2024, we received 20 personnel matters during that period, some of which are still under investigation or consideration. Through February of this year, we have received 3 personnel matters, so that keeps us on pace for about 18 to 20 total investigations that we expect to be initiated in 2025. The portal has proven to be, an effective system in terms of organizing complaints, researching back to any evidence that was submitted, and enabling, obviously, anonymous communication and notifications back to complainants. Would love to explore at some point, and something we're talking about is how we improve the submission form to indicate where in the standards of conduct and the allegation might fall to try to encourage more relevancy and clarity and specificity in the complaints. So again, all about balancing the accessibility and reduced barriers to reporting with helping make sure that complaints are as qualified as possible coming in to the commission. So that's my brief update on where we stand.
Thank you. I have a few questions, so I just want to make sure I have the numbers right. 2024, you received 20 matters. And did you break those out into like personnel matters or are they all personnel?
They were all personnel matters. There's also the option for someone to request the Ethics Commission to render an advisory opinion proactively, and that's limited to folks that hold some sort of position within the town government. So elected officials, board members, commission members, et cetera. to where we might advise on something related to the standards of conduct in the ongoing day-to-day businesses. That has not happened in 2024. So those are all personnel matters.
In 2023, there was one referral related to internal audit, or was that 2022? Or
Before
someone
my
being a
time,
member of the union.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. And then if you need legal assistance, or has that happened yet, that you needed the opinion of a lawyer, and that did you go to the town attorney? Because I don't really hear about any of this.
So to date, through my time, I don't believe that we've rendered an opinion of likely probable cause which would trigger that kind of like next step into a properly formal investigation. But you are correct. At that point, it would set off a slew of action, including the ability to retain legal counsel, bring in proper investigators, the works.
And you don't have a budget, so I think that budget would be under the legal the town attorney's budget. That's your understanding, right? Yeah, I think
I believe so. Yeah, because we don't have an explicit budget to my knowledge.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Yes, Christine.
Just in terms of the submissions that come in, have you quantified how many really just aren't appropriate, that people might think it's an ethical violation, but per your charge, it really doesn't fall within those parameters? Just trying to get a read of like if people have an understanding of what the commission is for.
For sure, it's a good question. I hesitate to editorialize too much, but so of the 20 complaints that came through in 2024, 12 were found to constitute no probable cause of a violation of the standards of conduct, and the other remaining 8 are still under consideration. Dating back to us not having a quorum for a period of time, and then also, the burden on the commission to properly investigate and try to determine if if there's a leaky bucket somewhere, if there's anything that might indicate a potential violation. We do our due diligence and we take everything that gets submitted, quite seriously. But that does take time, so it delays the work a bit. I do think that the public could be better educated about what the actual scope of the Ethics Commission is versus human resources versus, person AL matters versus ethics matters.
Yeah, and that really was prompted just having you come here today. The first selectman reported that the commission has been very busy and had a lot of submissions, and just really want to have kind of an understanding of how many fall within your purview, or how many is just being submitted and really isn't something that you should be handling. And I think you've answered that question. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate you really can't go into too much detail about what you're discussing right now.
Of course, yeah, and hopefully the website updates, again, keep accessibility, but point people down the right road to understand again more about what we do, and where in the town charter it explicitly says what our remit is.
But do you have, because I don't believe I've had interaction with Lighthouse. Does your team or the Ethics Commission, if you want to change the form or the whatever, that they do to submit it, can you have access to them and they know that you have authority to do that?
I believe we would have the access to customize. We just don't want to do anything too quickly, right? Like, we want to make sure that everything that we're doing is in accordance with whatever obligations we have under, local and state law regarding our operations. But I do believe we do have the ability to do that, and so it's something we're hopefully looking into getting done in the next couple of months here, just to again streamline and make things a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, because I don't know who at that firm has a record of who they're allowed to take instructions from. So if you needed help with that, you would go to the town attorney, I would guess, right?
I think it would be some combination of the town attorney and Dave Kelly, right? From an IT perspective, just those are the 2 avenues that I would walk down. So that's the plan.
Can you explain when someone who's been accused of something is, if ever, notified, other than obviously if you opine on something actually being an ethical violation, is there some point where you would, let's say someone accuses them of eating lunch for 2 hours instead of 1, I don't know, whatever, you know, that some people have frivolous submissions, some people have very serious submissions. And I assume, because I don't see them, but if even if they're frivolous and you're like, this doesn't, you know, this doesn't fall, you know, under our purview, would you notify the person
Yes.
being accused? Okay.
Yes. So it's set out in our procedure that within 10 days of a finding of no probable cause, we notified both the complainant and the person whom the complaint was made against that there was an investigation and it has been terminated. So they
And
both parties would be made aware. Yes.
And if you decide to continue with the investigation, which you wouldn't notify the person being investigated and immediately, right? Or when would you tell them, or if at all?
Yes. So at that point, the person would be notified, and I believe it's within 90 days of a finding of probable cause. We must make some sort of determination, right, or begin the investigation at that stage, and the investigation could take quite some time. Once that hearing is complete, then we have 30 days after the close of that hearing to publish findings with memorandum for the reasons that we've come to that finding, and that would include any recommendation for disciplinary action.
Any questions, Brenda?
Sure. Hi, Will. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
I'm good. So there's been a lot of discussion about this over the past year regarding the amount of complaints that came in over my administration, the administration prior, the current administration. I actually spoke to Attorney Baldwin, the former town attorney, last night. And he told me, because as Mr. Gerber's pointing out, the First Select people aren't ever informed about any of these things. This is solely, you know, the lighthouse, which we don't know about. So Attorney Baldwin said every file should be maintained in the lighthouse. So there should be an archive from my administration, the prior administration, they should all be there. And so regardless if who looked at it after Lighthouse received it, it would be archived in the Lighthouse archive. So there's been some inference that complaints were being, you know, filtered or whatever, but all complaints are archived in that system where they originated. So I think it should be easy to see. And Attorney Baldwin shared with me that all notes go in that archive. So, for example, if there was a complaint and it was an HR related matter, because it was employee related, there would be notes put in there. I guess before we came in, the Ethics Commission, according to Attorney Baldwin, he designated the ethics chair to receive all the reports directly. And of course, HR and town attorney. So there should be an archive in there. So regardless of who saw, the point is, regardless of who saw whatever complaints came in, they're all archived in Lighthouse. So the true number of complaints would be stored in this third party, whoever they are. And so, you know, I guess that would probably be helpful to, you know, if you, I guess, I'm assuming you still have access to that system. So as soon as somebody puts one in, you can see it. And maybe it would be beneficial for the First Selectman and Christine to know how many came in, 18, 19, 20,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth into the system, regardless of who reviewed them after they were submitted.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can certainly look in and see if they've all been housed in there. To your point, they should be accessible. I think I was only looking as far back as 24. But I can certainly go in and see if we can pull counts.
Okay.
No
I
problem.
mean, I think that would settle a lot of the rhetoric around this. Because obviously if you put a complaint in, it goes into a system and it's there, regardless of who then picks it up and reviews it.
I mean, Dave Kelly's here, but I could tell you from what I understand, which I believe is fact, but David, if I say anything wrong, correct me. When I came into office, the people that received the anonymous tips, the complaints through the lighthouse were one, the chief of staff, Jackie Bertolone, two, the chief administrative officer, Tom Bremer, three, the town attorney, Jim Baldwin, and four, the HR director, Kathleen Simpson. I don't know if you received them, Brenda, or not, but the Ethics Commission did not receive complaints. So they were all with administration officials. And so when I came into office, I decided that it was inappropriate to have, staff members like political appointees being the front line on these. And so we went, and Christine Brown took the lead on it, went to Dave Kelly and said, we don't believe this is appropriate. We think the Ethics Commission should be receiving every complaint. They should not, the gatekeepers to whether something got passed on to the Ethics Commission should not be the first select person's staff. It should go directly to the Ethics Commission so that the Ethics Commission could make the determination themselves as to whether or not something should be investigated. I mean, Dave, Christine, can you just tell, am I wrong about that?
I think you're correct. My memory isn't super sharp, but that sounds about right.
So I would say that's a pretty big deal. And so it's not rhetoric. Whether or not something's housed in the system that no one ever passed on to the Ethics Commission, that may be true. There may be stuff housed there, and that would be interesting, actually really interesting, to see what was housed there and not passed on to the Ethics Commission. But I think equally interesting is that there was no attempt, and I don't want to drag Mr. Ferguson into this, but under your administration, there was no attempt to have the Ethics Commission be the arbiter of what deserved an investigation or not. And now they are the front line. And so we are only copying HR now, not the town attorney, not the chief of staff, not the chief operating officer, so that people, I believe, should feel much more comfortable submitting an anonymous complaint without fear of retaliation.
So I just want to clarify, the town attorney shared with me when we came in, obviously, the transition wasn't as in-depth as we would have liked. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff going on, public corruption scandal and all of that. However, we weren't informed even about this lighthouse. We didn't even know it existed. So when Attorney Baldwin did realize that the Ethics Commission, and you can have him on, or you can, because, a lot of, innuendo has been spread around, and I think it's unfair because any town attorney who serves the town works for the town, and they take an oath and they have ethical standards. And apparently the lighthouse information was going to the former HR director, Mr. Hibson. And when Attorney Baldwin found out about lighthouse and all of that, he's the one that made sure it was going to the chair of the Ethics Commission. Now, again, I am the same as you. I never saw an ethics complaint. Nothing was shared with me, nor should it have been. So I'm not sure about what you're saying because, again, I wasn't involved in any of that. But if there's going to be any kind of, discussion about how the former town attorney handled this, I think it would be only appropriate to allow him to talk about it instead of having all these discussions about stuff I don't know about because it wasn't under my purview. However, the lighthouse system, as explained to me, has all the archives of every single complaint, regardless of who knew about it. They are there. They're there. So it's not as if, these comments about, oh, the Ethics Commission got so busy under a different administration as opposed to another one. The fact should be in the lighthouse system. So if whatever amount came in 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, they should all be in there. Just the
Okay.
number, regardless of who saw it, the number. So I just
Okay.
think that for clarification and frankly, making sort of inferences that the former town attorney was doing something unethical or improper, I think is wrong. And I think it's unfair.
I'm not sure. Okay, go ahead. Christine?
I really just wanted to know what we're currently doing right now, and if the current commission is feeling that they are getting a lot of complaints that really aren't in their purview. I want to make sure that they have the time to focus on those complaints that are legitimate, and that should be addressed. Make sure they have access to the proper information. It's good to know that all this information is archived in Lighthouse going back to prior administrations, that the commission has access to, they can log on to Lighthouse directly. That would be, I think, valuable for them, because they might have one claim that they find no issue, but if there's a pattern, potentially, I think looking back sometimes could be helpful in terms of patterns of behavior within, or potential issues within a government or a town. I can't really speak to, I'm not involved in this on a day-to-day. Appreciate just really wanting to learn what was potentially done from the past. I appreciate that information. Appreciate how the current administration is approaching it, and just making sure that the commission, now that it's fully staffed, has what it needs, and if it needs any other resources, this would be a good opportunity to hear from that.
I would note that Attorney Baldwin mentioned last night, and as I referenced earlier, the town attorney takes an oath, is sworn in to be the attorney for the town, not for the first select person, for the town, for department heads, all elected officials, including the first select person, and all commissions. And it's, we discussed, and he thought, he didn't think it was a great idea that the whole commission got it, that the chairman should get it, sort of the arbitrator, because human beings are human beings, and who knows, but having one person, the chair, get it is what he thought was appropriate. And he did think it was a mistake that the town attorney not be involved because of their oath to the town and not to an individual would be helpful, because when you have an HR department, that's not they don't take an oath the same way a town attorney does. So it's something I think that maybe discussing with Phil Pierce, but again, I would hope that going forward, any disparaging comments toward the former town attorney's handling of ethics complaints or the system of Lighthouse, I think would be inappropriate.
I'm not sure what was disparaging other than facts that I stated, but I want to say I'm very proud of my administration taking ethics very seriously, and that categorically he's wrong the head of the Ethics Commission, the chairman, was not receiving those emails. We can demonstrate that if he wants to come in and go through the records. We can go through all the email records, and then he can apologize, okay? But that is just not true. Okay, so we know that for a fact. So he never had the emails directed to the chairman of the Ethics Commission or anyone on the Ethics Commission, but they were being directed to the chief of staff, Jackie Bertolone, the chief administrative officer, Tom Bremer, the town attorney, Jim Baldwin, and the HR director, Kathleen Simpson. And nobody on the Ethics Commission was automatically getting submissions unless town attorney Jim Baldwin deemed that it was appropriate for them to get it. So he made himself the gatekeeper. Apparently you think that's okay. I didn't, and that's the change that has happened.
Again,
But I understand you
first selectwoman,
believe.
first selectman, I think you should, I have no idea how it was handled.
I'm telling you.
But again,
that it
I
didn't
think that
happen.
it is wrong for you to make these statements without talking to the former town attorney in a public meeting.
I will invite him to the next meeting and he can get up and he can come and make a statement that people were getting on the Ethics Commission were getting these emails, and he will have to prove that somehow. And I'm not sure he wants to do that. So I was not having this conversation with the Ethics Commission for this reason. You're the one who brought it up. I just wanted a review of what the Ethics Commission was doing. And you're in defensive mode now, and that's fine.
I'm not in defensive mode, Bill. Honestly, for the past year and a half, I've constantly heard how horrible I ran the town and how horrible everything was going until you rode in on a white horse. So honestly, I just have really had just about enough of the tit for tat. And I find it offensive that you would make disparaging comments about the former town attorney who happens to just signed on.
Hey, Mr. Town Attorney, you on? Your former first selectman has said that you changed the system for Lighthouse to automatically forward ethics complaints to the TIPS hotline to the chairman of the Ethics Commission. When I came in, we investigated that, and that was not true. You may have asked for it, but it didn't happen. So can you explain why the former first selectwoman is even talking about this?
He's muted.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. It's been a while. I do know that in the beginning, I was not even aware of the hotline for some time until it was brought to my attention. And even then, we had very few complaints through the hotline. When I did get complaints, I did as my predecessors did, and I shared it with the chair of the Ethics Commission. And if it was an HR matter and strictly an HR matter, then it went to the appropriate people to deal with it, whatever that situation was. If it didn't fit the paradigm of an ethics violation, which is fairly narrow in scope in a sense. But the fact of the matter is that we had very few complaints, and it was towards the end of the administration that the idea was brought up to have the chairperson receive those and have access to the portal directly. I thought that we put that process in place. If we didn't, it was or should have been in the works, because that was the plan. I think it was pointed out by someone who suggested that would be appropriate, and I completely agreed with it. And I think that it is appropriate to go to the chairperson. But
so this is simply a matter of I am proud of what I did. I am not disparaging of you. I'm just saying you did not set up a system. The former first select woman did not set up a system where emails with ethics complaints were automatically going to the anyone on the ethics commission, and that is a fact because we had to rip apart, the communications with Lighthouse to figure out who was getting the emails. I understand that you've taken an oath, that you're a lawyer, but you were serving as the gatekeeper of what should get forwarded to the ethics commission. When I came in, I thought that they should get everything. It is a different way of doing it. I am proud of that, but it's not disparaging of you as a person or your ethics. I hope you understand that. And it should not be characterized that way.
I appreciate that. And just to point out, as you said, no, we did not set up the system. We used the system that was in place when we came in to office. And there was a lot going on at the time. And there were so few such complaints that came through. It really didn't reach the point where it seemed to be necessary to change the system until someone pointed out that it would be a good idea to do it that way. So I think that it is a good idea for. It
may have been me. So, I mean, I was harping on this for a while. It may have been me. But again, this has really nothing to do with your ethics, or it's just you did it differently. And I just am trying to make the statement that I'm proud of what we did for, to point. We went in, it was one of the first things we did, I think, within a couple of months of me being in office, it was deliberate to go down to and talk to Lighthouse and then talk to IT and ensure that the ethics commission got every single complaint, and that to put the vetting process on them instead of the town attorney. Nothing really more than that. That is, and I'm proud of that. So not disparaging of you. I hope you know that.
I appreciate that clarification. I guess it was the insinuation that I heard in this meeting that there are some 20 or more such complaints coming through on average in the past few years. And I just want to emphasize that that was not the situation during the previous administration in which I served. And that's why I would encourage you to look at the archives and see just how many did come in, so that you can also see that there was not a great deal or any real filtering of complaints and dismissing complaints or anything along those lines. To the contrary, if it was, as I said earlier, if it was strictly an HR matter that didn't fall under the purview of the Ethics Commission, it would be dealt with appropriately by the HR department and or whatever department that was at issue.
But I would also, and just one thing, we've also, like you said, you weren't even aware, or at least the former first select person said she was not aware that this even existed. And I don't think this was really advertised, and my administration has been advertising this. I talk about it all the time. And so I think there's an awareness that this is an avenue that is much less burdensome than the old avenue of like filling out a paper form, which I know, hearing from other people in the past, that they felt uncomfortable doing that. And I think we've really gone out of our way to let people know that this is a way for them to file an ethics complaint, because we have had so many issues with the fill pile and other issues that town employees especially may be in a position to see something wrong and they can say something without revealing themselves, or even being worried about, members of the administration being able to guess who they might be. Christine.
I'm just going to go back to Mr. Ferguson. I think that we've hashed this out. And just to go back to where we started, it sounds like the commission is happy with the resources it has right now, but some work just needs to be done to streamline the website, and you're working with Mr. Kelly to make that happen. Anything else that this board should know just moving forward? And it sounds like it's about a 50-50 for the submissions that have come in through Lighthouse. what is something that would be addressed by the commission and what is something that maybe needs to be moved forward to another town department or just not really within the purview of anybody. Is that a accurate or fair recap? Anything else you want to add?
Just the yes, and just the point that it's not necessarily 50-50. It's that of the volume that we've gotten to, we've covered about 50 of the complaints that came in last year, all of which have been to date found of no probable cause.
Thank you for that.
But otherwise, correct. Yes.
So, Mr. Ferguson, I'd like to apologize to you. That was not the reason we brought you in, for you to hear this. And I'm sorry that you had to hear it. That was not the purpose of this meeting. And thank you for giving us the outline of the process. And it helps the public know. I think there's been some faith has been shaken in town government over the last, actually before the Phil pile. I would say prior to that, even with certain things that I won't get into it, but I think people might have filed ethics complaints had something like this been in place. And the role that you are playing is, I think, of paramount importance. And I can't think of any other way to ensure that these issues come to light than to go through a third party, a non-political third party with really good people on it, with resources. And you do have access to resources if you need them.
I appreciate it. We serve at the pleasure of the people of town.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I still think it would be helpful if you could just, let the board, if you want to email us. If what Attorney Baldwin said is true, there's an archive in this system where people have been putting them in for, I don't know when Mr. Tetro hired Lighthouse. However, I think it would be helpful just to know what went into that system. Because if it's still archived, we're not saying tell us what they are, just how many, let's say, go back to 2017. If that's what it was, I don't even know if it was in place in 17. But whatever it was, the electronic system, just to see what the numbers were. I think it's good information for us all.
We had a meeting, a RTM meeting, prior to the election that you won, Brenda, at Osborne Hill School, and I remember the discussion of putting this in response to the Phil pile. So, what year would that have been? It would
have been like fall of 2019.
2019. So I remember we talked about this in public. Mr. Tetro promised to do this, and at the time, I remember thinking and saying that if it's not going to an independent third party, then it's not terribly useful. And now it is.
And we can. It sounds like that we can get just the stats going back from its origin, and that now that the commission has access to it. So that is good. Thank you, everybody, for the information.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Bike and Pedestrian Committee, who's here from Bike Ped?
Is on.
Amy Barrett, you're on?
Amy needed to run to a train.
Are you presenting, Amy? I mean, Anya, are you presenting? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to pass it over. No,
Okay.
I'm here. I was going to, but I was not expecting the first agenda item to take so long, and I now need to scoot to a train.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So that's okay. I leave you in the more than competent hands of Anya.
And Anya is an officer. Anya, are you vice chair of the Bike Ped? So item number 5, Bike and Pedestrian Committee, to hear, consider, and approve updating the charge for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee charge. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Anya. Take it away.
Yeah, so we updated our charge recently for a few key reasons. One being the latest signing of the Vision Zero pledge, and we wanted to really reflect that in the mission of the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. Another goal was to update the responsibilities. So we felt that the responsibilities listed there were a little outdated and weren't really what we were focusing on at the time. So we wanted the charge to be more reflective of what we were actually doing. And then we also added a new section for commitment. We really, we've gotten a lot of new membership, which has been really great, lots of new enthusiasm in the group. And we wanted to make sure everyone coming into the committee knew, what kind of commitment to make, what are they going to be responsible for, and how much time to set aside, because previously we noticed not everyone was available to do the work necessary when joining the committee. So that we really wanted to set the expectations within the charge. And lastly, we had a collaborative kind of values brainstorm so that we can align on what we believe the values and the principles of the committee are. So that way, once we have alignment there, we're all making decisions going forward based on those shared principles, and we'll hopefully kind of be able to make those decisions faster. So those are kind of the reasons for the change. I'm not reading through the actual charge. I assume you all have that in front of you.
We do.
Yeah.
So you're welcome to read through it if you haven't already. Let me know if you have any questions.
I just wanted to say that I think it's miles more relevant than the old charge, and I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
So I just, I want to be careful because it seems like there's a lot more responsibility on these members now. And I looked through and it says, so there might be difficulty getting people to sign on to this now because there's so many, it's a lot of work, what's being proposed for these volunteers. And there's a clause to remove a person. So I just want to make sure
that part is not, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to speak.
I'm sorry, that the town attorney has taken a look at that before to make sure it aligns with our charter.
So all the logistics on who's on it, when they come on, how they could be removed are actually verbatim from what was approved in 2014. That was not something I felt that needed to be changed. I'm happy to show that to Laura, but just so you know that is verbatim what we've had for the last 10 years.
I mean, I'm not sure what was on it, I thought it may be.
It's in the backup.
As long as the town attorney's reviewed it, I would say, make sure that he's reviewed it.
I believe he has.
I don't, he might, to be fair, we did not send it to an attorney. I did not realize that was one of them. I'm happy to do it. I can't imagine what the challenges would be given, again, all the kind of the logistics of the matter, haven't changed, but I don't mind sending on to, unless Jen Carpenter sent it on, I did not send it to Laura. I did not realize that was something we needed to do.
Well, usually the town attorney reviews all charges, that's their job to make sure that they're in lining with our charter and that sort of thing. So if it hasn't been reviewed by the town attorney, can I, make a motion to move this to the next agenda? So
yeah, unfortunately, I can't. I can't get a hold of him now. But you're right. I believe it has been, but I don't know if I can prove that right now. So if that's the case, then that makes sense to postpone it. But are there any other comments you have on it other than?
No, that's it.
I did want to just Brenda, just to address your first comment about the commitment and whether or not people would be signing on. I will say that that charter was reviewed thoroughly by the people who have, who were currently, I would say about half who've been on the committee for a while, half are newer. They all agreed, and even though we're coming to show this charge today, we actually created this a few months ago, and I didn't realize there's a whole process for getting approved and putting it on. So apologies, we're all kind of new to the group figuring it out. But it has been in place and something we've been sharing the last few months to anyone who's been joining. And so far it hasn't, no one's raised any questions or concerns about the commitment required.
I mean, personally, I think the commitment is really important because I believe, one of the things, we've now since turned over a lot of members of this committee. There were a lot of members who were not really that interested in doing much. So, and ultimately there was a push for them to do more, and a lot of them resigned. And this committee should do a lot. So, I mean, this is one of our big pushes in Fairfield to make our streets safer for bikers and pedestrians. And so this committee is a conduit of ideas, issues, complaints to bodies that we've set up, like the new Fairfield Traffic Authority.
Yeah, and we've, as of the beginning of this calendar year, we created kind of a project list based on the responsibilities that we believe we should be doing and the commitment required. So we have a list of projects, and we had every member take at least one of those projects on and commit to moving it forward. And at least, you know, the beginning, but so far, like, that's been really, everyone's been kind of moving forward, and I'm really excited about what can come out of this committee with this new level of commitment.
I mean, there's no lack of people that want to be on this committee right now. So I don't think that's going to be a gating factor for, you know, we've had a bunch of applicants. We have a couple slots open right now, and we have multiple applicants, and we have to fill them from among those applicants. But that has not been the problem. Whether or not we're going to burn through, you know, all the most active, I doubt it. I think there are a lot of active bike ped people in this town, and they're willing to do work.
Yeah, I think there's somebody coming up for approval from you. I don't know if that's today or sometime soon. I'm just trying to, I can't seem to dig up the agenda, but sometime soon you should be approving.
Not today, yeah.
Not today, but probably the
should be
next
coming
month.
through
So
very
there's a
soon.
resignation today.
I would also note, Anya, that maybe when you have the town attorney review it, you know, I don't think it's specifically in the ordinance, or mission, but maybe to specify that we have members from, you know, different parts of our town. I mean, we kind of done that already, you know, kind of making sure, I think, that
So
it's been balanced, but maybe even just including language that says, you know, that there's a balance of individuals from different parts of town and not just all clumped into one area.
Sure. And we certainly make every effort already to do that. I'm happy
Yep.
in language.
But if it's in writing, you know, it kind of like, you know.
I'm thinking, what comes to mind if I add that language, maybe say, you know, the committee will make every effort available to balance the representation across town. I'm hesitant to say, we'll be sure to have this many reps from these different areas. I think that's gonna be really difficult. Would that be okay, Brenda, to say that we'll make every effort to make sure it's balanced?
I mean, I think check with the town attorney, obviously, so I don't know.
At least
but-
that would satisfy what you're asking for.
Yeah, and ultimately it's, you know, the first selectman who puts the, you know, appointees on the agenda. So, you know, maybe if there's just some kind of comment, you know, that the town attorney can add that says something that we will make every attempt.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. We certainly already do that, and I'm happy to put it into the charge itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you want to make a motion to postpone?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the work. I had similar just questions about the, I know the failure, the grounds for removing somebody from the committee. I guess my question for the town attorney would be if this language is for other commissions, just consistency across town. And
Be the next chapter.
Well, it's actually in the chart, the current chart.
In the charter today, yes.
okay.
Yeah, you know, the appointing authority can terminate members of a committee. So like, the only issue I believe is that people don't really know that. But yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and that's my own for just not being
and what this
off the top of
does
my
is
head.
just spell out,
clear.
so that it makes it clear what the expectation is, but it would ultimately, yeah, probably authority.
And then, you know, obviously, when this is approved, I would just ask that the commitment expected, just update the website so when people are volunteering, they understand what the commitment is before they even apply.
Yeah, and I think that's why this is so
Yeah.
important,
It's
because
valuable and
it didn't say any of this in the old one. People, I think, thought, oh, this will be cool, but I won't have to do any work. So,
I'm
yeah,
not gonna, necessarily make assumptions about why people volunteer, but just,
there's that risk.
but there is that risk, and this way it's clear that if you volunteer, there's going to be expectation for time commitment and meeting project is.
I mean, the message is like, we need more time beyond just the meeting themselves, because there's
Right.
definitely
just-
not attending the meetings.
Brenda made the motion.
Did you make the motion to postpone?
Did you make the motion, Brenda?
You want me to?
No, you did, right? Or?
No,
or
no, I
not?
said I suggested, if you
Okay.
want me to.
Yeah, you wanna make the motion? It's your motion if you wanna make it.
So I'll make a motion to postpone this until after the town attorney has reviewed to,
Okay.
to a meeting when it's,
Just so I understand, once that's done, can this be done by email afterwards if the changes that were brought up here are made, or do we need to come back to this meeting?
You'd have to come back for approval.
Okay.
But we can talk later about that if you have any questions, but motion's on the table. You've seconded it. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor of the motion to postpone till after the town attorney to a meeting after the attorney is reviewed, which I believe we'll postpone to the next Board of Selectmen meeting because he'll approve it before then.
I seconded it.
You seconded the motion to postpone to a future
we're gonna
meeting.
vote now.
We have to vote
Until the town attorney reviews.
until after the town attorney.
Town attorney is reviewed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, motion passes unanimous. Thank you so much, Anya. We will reconvene very soon. Okay,
I just
Item-
wanna, before we move to the next item, I would just like to thank Tom Keene for his service on the committee. He was on it a really long time. So I just wanna thank him.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we enjoyed having Tom. We were bummed when he gave us his resignation.
He was on it a long time, so.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you for your service. And I can't recall why he's stepping down, but part of it was he got too busy, I believe, if I recall correctly.
Involved in a lot of other organizations.
Oh, he's got a lot of other commitments, and this was, yeah, for him, this, I guess, was too much. Item number 6, purchasing authority. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed cooperative research and development agreement between the town of Fairfield and Wisdom Good Works, Inc. to provide rodent control services at various approved town facilities. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. May I have a motion? Seconded. James.
Adam's here. He can start us off, usually does.
Yep, I'll kick things off. This is Adam Tulin, Purchasing Director. I just wanted to say that this is an interesting opportunity to partner with an organization, basically a pilot program. I don't want to steal any thunder from James or anyone else that can speak more eloquently about it, but it's a non-lethal way to address rodent control. And in terms of dollars, we're under the bid threshold, so the purchasing policy is satisfied. So we're just asking for approval of the contract to proceed with this organization, Wisdom Good Works.
And so James Ryan, Building Maintenance Manager, Department of Public Works. Really, there are 2 locations that we're gonna target in this pilot program using fertility control for mice and rats at the transfer station and at the compactor behind the Fairfield Theater Company on Carter Henry Drive. There's 2 of our locations that we chose because of they would be a good test to see if this works or not. Other than that, it's a pilot program. I think it's important to state that it's going to be a year program, and after the year, with the results hopefully good, we would like to, add some of these techniques to a public bid. To, and kind of, lead the way in Connecticut with this technique. Lot of volunteer work will be necessary, and Ted has will speak in a minute, but we'll can talk about that a little bit. And this pilot program isn't costing the town anymore. It's comparative to what we spend on pest control now at the transfer station and the Fairfield Theater Company combined. We could speak on what is it. It's basically a doesn't affect pets if they get to this bait at all. It's a very minute percentage of natural pellets, and pretty much I can't speak too much about the data sheet on the technology, but just wanted you to know the locations and the time of the contract, the agreement, and what we plan to do in the future.
Actually, I think it would be appropriate, not as public comment, but as actually part of the presentation, for you to to explain the importance of this, the impact on owls. Do you want to go up to the? In 3 words or less. No.
For me, that's really difficult. This has taken almost a year to get to this point, and it wouldn't be happening without the support of James and DPW and Adam, and also the support of Friends of Animals. So we've got Nicole was on, Nicole Rivard is on the line. So they made a donation, donated into the fund. Conservation has made a donation into the fund. So there's multiple people that are supporting this approach. The whole idea is that right now, the way rats are controlled is with a stage 2 anticoagulant, which is an awful way to die. What ends up happening is you can't clot your blood and end up through a wound, end up, bleeding out for all intents and purposes. And the natural control system for rats is raptors, right? Raptors and other predators. And what happens is a raptor gets a rat. So this poison can take several days.
Can you explain what a raptor is?
A raptor is a hawk, an eagle.
Not a velociraptor.
Not a velociraptor. No, that's out of my timeline. But I would say, so what happens is a perfect example being the eagle owl in New York that died after it hit a building that escaped from the zoo. And they found 3 different kinds of anticoagulant rat poison in his carcass. And what it ends up happening is it kills the bird. And the bird is the natural control system for rats. So the problem is everything's out of balance. So this is a technology to approach the problem by reducing the fertility of the female rodent. And so they have to ingest the pellets over a period of time, and they become less fertile. So the population decreases in size, which it makes it easier for the raptors to do what they're supposed to do, which is to control the rats. These pellets are completely non-toxic. They can be eaten by dogs, by cats, by any kind of animal, any other kind of predator that might be looking for the food. So it's much safer. And I actually think it is the direction that this type of control is going to go in the future. And frankly, a little bit of pride. Fairfield's the first town in Connecticut that's actually going to be piloting this technology. So yay, Fairfield. And thanks to everybody who's supported this effort, including Dabney, who's also making a contribution on behalf of her organization. And that's more than 3 words.
So am I right that Dabney, you've actually you've saved many of these?
Yeah,
animals?
I mean, I can
Yeah.
come up and add to what Ted My name is Dabney Bowen. I am the president of an organization, a nonprofit called Call of the Wild. We are a wildlife conservation and rescue organization. So whenever there is an injured or sick wild animal in this town, I get 50 phone calls. I'm very, very busy, and I will tell you that firsthand, almost all of the calls that we get for owls, hawks, eagles, falcons are from rodenticide poisoning. Sometimes those animals will find themselves running into buildings or getting hit by cars because they're sick. But the primary cause of death is the rodenticide poisoning. These anticoagulant rodenticides, the bait uses molasses, peanut butter, and other things that are not only attractive to mice, but also to raccoons, also to dogs and stray cats. I was at Splash on Post Road the other day, and there was a bait box with the lid off of it, and the poison just completely exposed any dog or cat, and it was under a bench. So anybody who didn't see it, had their dog sitting there, could easily get to it. Children that are unattended could get to it. So there are a lot of unintended consequences and fatalities because we're using a bait that attracts other animals and because we're using a bait that doesn't kill the animal right away. I should note that there has been a bill on the state level. It's bill, give me 1 second.
To outlaw rodenticide.
Yeah, House Bill 6915 that will eventually get, hopefully sooner rather than later, approved. And we will be ready if we adopt this program to enact that law, because we will have a backup plan for that instead of sort of having our community not be prepared for rodent control when that law goes into place. That law is set to completely ban second and third generation anticoagulant rodenticides. So, and I have seen this firsthand, and I can tell you that an animal dying of rodenticide poisoning, I had a raccoon in my care that was dying of it. It is gruesome. It is horrible. It takes hours of just gut-wrenching pain.
So a few things. One is, if we're at first, we need to let the Fairfielders be proud of that. So I think we have the information, but we'll get that out. And all of you who have been involved in this effort, I think you deserve a lot of credit. And we should make sure you get a lot of credit, but also any links for testimony, if you need it for the House bill, we could provide a link for that. And I think it's important, as much as I hate the idea of a mouse or a rat dying an agonizing death when they don't have to, it's not just about that. It's about an eagle, dying an agonizing death, an owl, and and also pets and other animals that come across it. So I don't know how to say it. I can't be more grateful for your efforts.
I also want to shout out Tim Bishop and the conservation.
Tim on or, yeah.
Tim's at a conference today,
Okay,
so
but yeah,
we're both on conservation as well, so there's a lot of support.
Thank you very much.
I also wanted to add that it would help stem the spread of Lyme disease, because white-footed mice, who are the primary mouse species here in Fairfield, are the vectors and transmitters of Lyme disease. And so if we limit and sort of target and manage those populations, we can help to stem the spread of Lyme disease, which of course can affect us all. So
thank you for all your work.
Team effort.
And you might as well stay up there. Any questions or comments?
No, just good to see you, Dabney, and you guys do such great work. This is awesome. I'm so glad you're doing it, and it's a huge problem. And I hope the bill passes too.
Well, thanks, Brenda, for introducing me and James.
Well, James is awesome.
And I will say also that me and my colleagues who are fighting for this bill on the state level, having this support in the town will hopefully be a good model for our state legislators as well.
Thank you. Exciting to see it play out. Was there any discussion of doing, is this primarily for outdoors?
Yes.
Yes.
The larger bait boxes that you see.
It's really commercial. Most commercial enterprises and towns get them through rodent control companies. So it's not, I mean, some smaller businesses will go and buy them from Home Depot or whatever, but most of them are coming from licensed pest control companies.
We've also had interest from the Board of Ed, Mr. Papa George, and possibly this being expanded to them, but that hasn't happened yet. So right now we're just focused on the transfer station and the Naughty Dolphin dumpster.
Yeah, I mean, the purchasing policy is limiting us this first year.
Yeah.
We put that in a bid and we're clear sailing.
I know that the schools are dealing definitely with some challenges, some more than others. Do you think that it would take a year to really have a read on how it's going, or could you?
Well, there are already indications that this technology is pretty successful. So up in Hartford, Bushnell Park has used a different product, but they've managed to pretty much eradicate the rat population from the park using this over the course of the last year. And it's gaining momentum around the country. So it's a new technology. It's an alternate way of dealing with this issue. And it's a great start for us in Fairfield to be on the leading edge. So
The agreement kind of spells out some of the expectations in the next couple of months and throughout the year.
Okay, any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, guys.
thank you very much.
Thanks again for your hard work.
So item number 7, to hear an update on the Charter Revision Commission. We have the chairman of that commission, Mr. Chris DeWitt, here, and the floor is yours, Chris.
Mr. Gerber? Thank you, Mr. Kelly. So I got a quick PowerPoint presentation. Just wanted to share a couple of data points with you. So
Dave's got the, oh, there we go. Yeah.
it's right up there. First off, so thank you for having me, Chris DeWitt, and the chairman of the Charter Revision Commission. And happy to see you guys tonight. Next chart, please. Thank you. So what are our objectives? Only really 2 objectives, but they're really broad objectives, you know. The first one is to thoughtfully address all taxpayers' comments and inputs. There have been a lot of inputs. I'll go through that. But we, under my leadership, what I wanted to do was make sure that we addressed all these comments and that people didn't walk away from this process in May when we're going to be done saying, no one listened to me. No one heard my comments. And so as a great example, my friend, select person Vitali brought 2 very important topics before us, which we debated, I think, our last meeting. Neither of them moved forward, but it's still very necessary to have these conversations and talk about what shouldn't be in the charter as much as what should be in the charter. So very happy to have that input from her and work through that. And the second one, and this is really important, and I address this almost at every meeting. We have to deliver a revision that's going to pass a townwide referendum. Because just to remind everyone, the last one didn't, right? So when we hand this over to the town clerk, who then officially hands it to you, this has to move forward and this has to go to a townwide referendum. So that's one of the reasons I'm here today. I want everyone to hear that we're working on this. I want people to be able to put their comments we can still take comments now, but we're voting on a lot of stuff. We're moving stuff forward, but we have a keen awareness of the fact that this has to pass a referendum in November. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop. Next slide, please. Here's our timeline. We started in October with our organizational meeting. We are required to have 2 public sessions. We had our first public session on the 6th of November. It was very sparsely attended. I think there were 4 people, which wasn't real encouraging. But we've, and I'll talk about it a little bit. We have a really good system for collecting inputs. Thanks to Mr. Kelly. Since the 6th of November, we've been meeting at least twice monthly. This month, we're meeting 3 times, which is really challenging as the chairman, because it's nice to have 2 weeks in between the meetings, because I have to call people. Like, I know you're gonna be at my meeting tomorrow night, right, Mr. Gerber? We have to.
Tomorrow night?
Yeah, tomorrow night.
We have a board of finance.
Yeah, but you can miss the Board of Finance budget meeting. We don't need you for that long. But anyway, we've been meeting at least twice monthly. Yeah, check your phone, it's in there. And then after that, and that's gonna continue until May 8th of 2025. May 8th, we have a contractual, well, I call it a contractual obligation. We have an obligation from the first selectman to deliver the draft report on the 13th of May, and we're gonna hold that, right? So between the 8th and the 13th, we're gonna have our second public session. Haven't scheduled it yet, but that is one of the things that the state says we have to do as a charter revision commission. So that's gonna happen. We are gonna deliver this on time. I know you've given me a little leeway at the end. I don't think we're gonna need it. So next slide, please. So I don't wanna spend a lot of time in this, but what I think it's important for everyone to know what our process is, right? We collect data. We've had greater than 90 inputs from taxpayers and town leaders, which I think is outstanding, right? We then take that data, and my vice chairman, Commissioner Treshik, has created a topic Google sheet. And he does the tedious work of taking these 90 some odd comments, and more come in every day. I think 4 came in today. And grouping them into topics, boards and commissions, public works, whatever the topics are, grouping them together. And then we use this data sheet as a guideline for all our meetings. The Google sheet, at least the static version of it, is in our, we were not sharing it because it's a living document. We use it live, but the public had said a couple times, well, we want to see what it looks like. So now every time that we have our backup for like tomorrow's meeting, there's a static copy of it. So that's being shared at every meeting. We are sharing all of our data. We are having all our meetings are in the open. Everything's being shared. This is probably one of the most transparent processes I've ever been involved with in our town, which says a lot because I've been involved in more than a couple. And then we hold meetings. We collect additional meetings. We hold these meetings. We have testimony. We discuss. We have subject matter experts come in. Ms. Simpson came last time. She's going to come this time because we're going to talk about this time. We're going to talk about the CAO and COO roles and memorializing them in the charter because they're not there now. People have mentioned town manager. So we have meetings because we need to solicit comments from people. We want people to see these meetings, and for the most part, they've all been in person, except for 2 meetings which have been delayed by weather. But we've had Zoom at every meeting. Every meeting has at least had Zoom. Tomorrow night, we will be here in person, so everyone should show up here or get on Zoom. We solicit public comment at every meeting. The way I run the meeting, we use Robert's rules, of course, but it's a little bit loose. We have a couple people who are diehards that are at every meeting. And because I know they have such great inputs, they're almost an extension of the commission, and we kind of let them have free reign of the, they have public, we don't perfectly address public comment, but you understand what I'm saying. And then one of the things that I wanted to do that the last commission didn't do, and I thought was really important. So when we discuss something, we take a sense of the body vote. The last commission did a lot of good work, right? And they made a lot of decisions, and then they wrote it all down and put it into one big document that everybody reviewed at the end. So we had a conversation last time about possibly increasing the size of the Board of Selectmen. We discussed it, we made the decision that's probably not a good idea. And then I made a sense of the body, sorry, Kristen. And then I made a sense of the body vote and I said, so the Charter Revision Commission is gonna take no action on this recommendation from Select Person Vitale. 7 hands go up in the air. We do this for every decision we make. So you could go back and look at all of our agenda items, all of our backup, all of our meeting minutes, and you can see every item that we talked about. And Commissioner Wackerman, who thank God is taking and helping us input the document and doing track changes and stuff like that. It's great for her. She updates the document on real time. So that was something last commission didn't do that I really felt strongly we needed to do. And I think it's paying benefits. Next slide, please. So what have we accomplished so far? So we've been doing this for how many months, Chris? What have you done? We've talked about boards and commissions. That's one of our topics that I told you, Commissioner Treshik talked about. There's a whole list of things in there. We talked about the organization of the Board of Selectmen. We talked about Board of Ed purchasing. We are going to have a continued discussion tomorrow night about fire and police commissions. We've already ruled on town officer residency and qualifications. God bless you. And the residency is an interesting topic to talk about for 2 seconds. In the current charter today, if you want to be fire chief or you want to be police chief, you have to be a resident of Fairfield. And both the commissions, the fire commission and the police commission are like, wow, we're missing out on a lot of good people. So we've changed it so that it's a what's the word I'm looking for? A geographic geographic restriction more than in the town. It's and I don't want to quote the number, but it's some miles out from the center of the firehouse or something like that. So there's been and all of these topics, and you look like, well, you've been doing this for 4 months, Chris. What are you doing? There's a lot of discussion that goes behind this. There's a lot of people that talk about this, and there's a lot of subject matter experts that come. But we've tackled all these. We've talked about public works in the requirement for a professional engineer, and just various other topics. And I would tell anyone who's watching that they can go to our web, and I'm going to talk about that maybe next. No, 2 slides. I'll talk about that. I'm going to our website. So next, please. We have 7 meetings left. We added one in March. We added a meeting next week, just to make sure we were going to be done with everything. And we have a final public session, which I mentioned before. We're going to talk about WPCA organization, which is not going to be an easy conversation. There'll be a couple meetings. You'll be involved with that. We have some human services. We have some library stuff tomorrow night. Inland wetlands organization needs to be quantified. CAO and COO roles, we want to memorialize that in there. So there's still work to do. But what I did about a month ago, when we were looking at this, and no one had a really good feeling we could finish this. So what I did is I created a list of goals, and the goals are things. This is the way I categorize it. These are things that I would be really disappointed as the chairman that we didn't address before we got done. There's a lot of we could spend 3 years doing this. I mean, you really could. But there was a list of things that I would really have been disappointed in myself as chairman that we didn't drive home if we didn't finish. I published that list, and every week or every time we meet, we go through the list and we check off what we did. And I think we're going to be fine. I think May is going to be more than enough time. So next slide. Do you have anything? So if you want to keep up with us, the best thing is the website. And I want to shout out to Mr. Kelly. Just amazing. We started out with one of those group emails, which is absolutely horrible. Dave called me up one day and said, I have a much better way to do this. You go to the website, you click on here, and says, send your comments to the commission. And you have to put your name in, and you have to put your address, you have to put contact information, which again, in emails, you don't get. So this has just been amazing tool for me. All our agendas are here, all our minutes are here. Every solicitation that was put into the website is in here, right?
So you're no longer getting mail about the money they found in your account in Nigeria?
Well, I have to tell you, we are still getting some spam email from a CRC address, but it's few and far between.
But not through the forms.
Through the form, there's nothing. No, nothing. So very good. And the other thing that I think is really important here is we have a files and documents section, which so your recommendations, the Board of Selectmen recommendations, the town clerk recommendations, it's all there. So again, I'm going to go back to my original objective. I want this to be so transparent that everybody can look at this stuff at 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. If they want to go, what did Christine Vitale put in her comments about the Board of It? It's right there. It's all right there. And I thought that was very important, and that's the way we work. So if you want to keep up with us, you can see all our minutes, check on agenda in minutes, and all the minutes will have every sense of the body vote and every topic we talked about, every painful detail we talked about has a sense of the body. So if you have that kind of time, go for it. Next slide, please. I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of my commissioners. There's now 7 of us. We originally started with 8, but we're at 7 now. Commissioner Treshik is my vice chairman. And tomorrow night, we're going to vote for a new secretary, as we had one resignation. But Commissioner Blanco, Commissioner Hoag, Commissioner McCann, Commissioner McInerney, and Commissioner Wackerman, who, like we're the 2 old elected people. She's not old, you know what I mean. Been there, did that. Elected official.
She's still doing it.
Yeah, she's still doing it, right? I bailed. But she's really been a great resource for me. You know, the 2 of us can look at each other and, you know, is that right? Can we do that? So I just want to thank all the commissioners. They're putting in a lot of time. And there's a lot of time getting stuff ready for the meetings. So I don't want anybody to think that anything's going on behind the scenes, except for a lot of preparation and a lot of hard work. So that's it for me. Any questions?
I think when this is all over, we're bringing in some pizza. You deserve more than that, but that's all we could afford.
I understand.
But you're just doing, you and this group are doing so much for this town. It's hard to describe how much we are going to owe you. But at least in slaps on the back, kudos. But one thing a couple things you said that really make a big difference, in my opinion. One is the sense of the body votes. I tracked the last process really closely. That probably was one of the issues that made it harder for them to get, it caused a last minute rush. And like, you have a decision tree, you've got the things that you're working on that are actually dependent on things that you've talked about before, and you don't know how you can make a decision on something that's dependent on something that you haven't made the decision yet.
Right.
So that process of going down that decision tree has made it just much easier to know where you're going. And what I do appreciate also is I think last time, and we've talked about this at one of your meetings with Selectwoman Kupchak and Selectwoman Vitale, the scope of what they were looking at last time was so enormous, and included a whole new type of government that that is something that is difficult for Fairfielders to comprehend in a short period of time, and a year is probably too short a period of time.
Yep.
So there are arguments for different forms of government, but not to start that process within a charter revision process. So you have a much more defined process because you didn't go that route.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. You know, when all 3 selectmen were at our meeting, we had this discussion, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have this discussion about a new form of government, but as I said during the meeting, we would need a information campaign probably a year before, and get everyone in town in public meetings, the whole thing, say, this is why this move would be good, right? And then the charter revision that would memorialize that should be just
It falls out.
Change a couple words and go.
It's already bought in.
Everybody's
the
bought
idea,
in,
and then the
right.
charter, yeah.
Right, and that's one of the things I'm trying to do here. So the reason I'm here today is because I want, more people to who normally might not call into my meetings to see, right? I also appreciate the fact that I put in updates into the first Selectmen's newsletter, like every other newsletter. I've been putting in some input, so hopefully people see it there. But you know what, if you really wanna know what's going on, pick up the minutes, come call into our meetings and.
So I have one question and then I'm gonna
Sure.
turn it over to my colleagues. So I am curious of the comments that you get. Like, are a lot of them things that, yeah, they make a ton of sense, but they don't belong in the charter? And then we can sort of compile them and give them to the RTM, maybe they're ordinances, things like that? Or-
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a lot of, there's not a ton of comments like, why isn't there a stop sign at the end of my road? There's a couple of those. I mean, probably a handful, right? Not to worry about that. Someone did email us, go through the website today about the town seal, right? So we've already said that we're gonna recommend the language. So we can't change the town seal, but we can put language in there that allows the changing of the town seal or keeps the town seal, right? Basically, that starts the process, right? So someone sent a note today and said, I'm in favor of changing the town seal and this is what it should be. And our response is we've already decided that we put language in to potentially change the town seal, but what it becomes, is probably gonna be in other commissions, right? So there are, I guess there's not a lot of comments that come through that I would say, oh yeah, let's hand this over to the moderator and see. But I mean, I will tell you, Commissioner Wackerman, there are a couple things that, you get this big fat idea and you're like, this is a great idea. And then when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, we're like, this has to be an ordinance, right? Because one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to make the charter a little simpler, right? So the charter today is, I'm guessing, 25 pages. Charter Revision Commission last time was 100 pages. So there was a lot more language in there. So there's a couple things we've informally adopted. One of them is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Some things in the charter today are perfectly fine and we're just gonna leave them there. And then there's a lot of things that point to that very talk about details of like a role or something like that. And they said, by the way, that's in Connecticut statute 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna take all that language up top and we're just gonna point to the statute and we're gonna say, have a nice day. Right, last meeting, we had an excellent discussion with Ms. Simpson from HR to talk about the roles, right? And the charter, in my opinion anyway, shouldn't say there's only 2 roles in the charter that have a job requirement. One is the Department of Public Works, and the other one, I guess there's 3. The town attorney has to be an attorney, and the third one is the finance director has to be a CPA. So what we've decided about, especially the professional engineer and the DPW, is we point to a new piece of language that the other commission created that we stole. We're gonna put in our charter revision. That's gonna point back to the HR department. It's gonna say, when you wanna hire the next DPW director, you call up the HR director and you go pull out a job description and it says, here's the job description for the HR director or the Department of Public Works. It's gonna take 4 pages out of the charter. So we want this charter to be, listen, it's gotta be inclusive, it's gotta have what we need in it, but we're trying to shrink it down and make it a little bit of a simpler document too.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Brenda.
So Chris, how much of the prior commission did a ton of work, and they had the value of having a charter attorney, helping them.
As do I.
And so they had a lot, and I know that you said you guys looked at that, all that stuff, because a lot of it was cleanup language, like there was things in the charter that just, there wasn't a table of contents, there was like all these like sort of like just cleanup stuff, and it was all,
Administrative stuff, yeah.
yeah, it was done really well. And I would encourage, and if I don't know if you guys are trying to use that, but I know the first selectman had given recommendations which were pretty similar to what the former commission had recommended. The different stuff, the seal, the police, the fire, or police chiefs not having to live in the town, like all that stuff. The Board of Ed terms, like all those things, which were all really good things. I mean, obviously, there was a lot more attention paid to that commission because they had a discussion, which I think anybody should have discussions. Open conversations are good about changing our form of government, but obviously at the end, they didn't recommend that. But a lot of the things they did recommend, I think, were very helpful as far as just cleaning it up. And I mean, it's all right there, you could use a lot of it. What I did want to ask was, and I wrote a note, is the commission looking at all, because, based on what our planning and zoning has been doing, they've been meeting, our commission, like so many applications, like they're meeting constantly, these poor people, they're just one application after another. Was there any discussion, or did you guys reach out to them to ask if maybe we should split our town planning and zoning into two sort of commissions? So one would be, planning, and one would be, zoning. Because I feel like our commission doesn't have any more, doesn't have the time to discuss planning, because they're just, listening to application after application after application, and they're worn out. And so I don't know if you guys looked at that or even thought about it, or if anybody brought it up.
Well, again, it's all based on taxpayer input. There has been two people, actually one within the last week that then made that recommendation. So we will probably take that up before the end of before we're done.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it might be worth emailing the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission just to ask his opinion about it. Maybe Jim Went would be a good person to ask.
We'll probably bring Jim Went in for testimony for sure.
And then you said you had 90 comments. Were they all from the same people, or were they from different people?
Oh no, all different. Yes, 90. No, yes, different people. Taxpayer inputs, department heads, elected officials. 90. Yes.
Because I mean, you did mention that you didn't get a lot of people showing up to your past public session. Maybe if there's a way to notice it more, maybe the town can assist by putting it.
I cannot possibly promote these meetings more than I have. I put them in the newsletter.
I mean, maybe the town.
They're on the town. They're on the
Facebook page.
I really don't care that it was the day. I'm sick of hearing that. I'm sorry to say it. I'm sick of hearing it was the day after Election Day. So what?
Oh, I don't know anything.
It was noticed for 3 weeks.
No, I don't know anything. I just was like recommending that maybe the town the PR person for the first selectman could put it on the, what do you call it, the Facebook?
It's been in the news, so I'm sorry, I'm taking my frustration out on you, Brendan. That's not what my intention is.
Because I don't know anything about
Public session, I've heard this 35 times. It was on the day after the election.
Oh.
It was noticed for 3 weeks in advance, right? More than I had to do. I put something in the first selectman's newsletter every couple weeks, right? Yep. It's on the town website. It's all over. And every meeting, it's the same 2 people sitting with me, or two people call in, right? Now, when we have testimony like last time, we probably have more people than we've ever had, because you guys were there and we had, Christine, Kathleen Simpson, but like I said, I literally, sorry, this is my frustration. I don't know how more I can reach out to people. I really don't.
Chris, it's typical. People are just so busy and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
No, and listen, there was a lot of action the last time, and I think to the point made earlier, there was that spark of a discussion, people thinking the world was gonna
Yeah.
end just because people talked about something.
Yeah.
And again, I think there was a lot of politics involved in it as well, but unfortunately. You know what I did want to ask you though? Have you kind of anticipated how many questions you're gonna have? Because obviously that was kind of a problem before, and if you do in fact have a lot of questions, I would encourage you to reach out to the Register of Voters ahead of time, because that would need, they would need to, like, I guess, order like a really long ballot, or
Yeah.
I don't know how they would handle it, but I know that that was a because we actually were staring at one when we were voting as the Board of Selectmen, and it was like, well, where are you gonna fit it? Because there was a constitutional question at the time in
Yeah.
the state of Connecticut.
Yeah.
And so
I got a whole education about ballots. I elected official for 16 years. I never freaking learned more about ballots than in the last 3 weeks.
yeah,
So this November, there's gonna be like 10 different races on the ballot. And they're like, okay, the ballot's only this big and we can only fit, so
Yeah.
we have to be careful. So on top of, we have to come up with a nice question or a couple questions. We've had some comments from the public, should it be one big omnibus question, which I don't know if we're agreed with yet. But I will tell you, here's the good news, that the questions are actually formulated by the Board of Selectmen, which of course, I'll offer
That's
my
right.
help in any way possible. And in fact,
Right.
I think when I come back here to do the final handover of the document, we'll probably recommend some questions, to kind of get you there, but ultimately that is your responsibility.
right, you're right.
To figure that out.
Yep.
We certainly, speaking for the commission, we certainly want to be involved, because that's my second objective. We just got to pass the townwide referendum, right? But it's a good point, because we're not going to we can't put 20 questions and on this ballot. In fact, someone told me the other day that it would be tough to fit 2 questions. I'm like, well, geez, you can't constrain us that much.
Yeah,
So-
that was the challenge we faced, and criticism over that. But I think that the consensus, was that people wanted a lot of questions. I know the first selectman thought we should have a whole bunch. So maybe, take that into consideration. I don't know
How many were there last
There
time?
was one.
It was
It was an
one
omnibus question. Yeah.
and again, there was a space issue and stuff, but I don't know if the ROV could help you. Like maybe they can add another page. I really don't know how. Because
Yeah,
I
we
know
should,
that
we
should
at some point.
you wanna
soon.
have, it seems like people wanted a lot of questions.
It would be nice to know,
If you can get like a letter side, yeah.
right, if we could
Yeah.
get something, or,
Yeah.
well, listen, first
To
thing it would
fit
be
this
great to know
camera.
is how much space do we have? And what does that mean? And then if it only allows for an omnibus question, then I think we need, because I've been tracking Shelton's process on their charter revision, and I could be wrong, but I think last November they failed for the 5th time.
So,
And they had one question last time,
Yeah,
and it was
so-
fairly innocuous.
so, right, the people in Fairfield are unlikely to accept, one question or even 2 questions. And I looked at, being the somewhat obsessive person that I am, looked at every charter revision for the last, I don't know, 5 years or something. It's all online. And the average number, if I recall correctly, was 3.5 to 4 questions.
3 questions is what I remember, yep.
Yeah, so I think there's enough meat in what you're doing that you'd want to give people at least a few different, looks at what they want and what they don't.
I think so too. We are very fortunate to have Commissioner McCann, who not only is an attorney, who works with towns and cities on charter revision, but has also served on his home city town. He lives, I think it's Southbury, has served on their commission as a commissioner. Has served on I'm thinking of Jason Bucksbaum, sorry. Jason Bucksbaum, who's our attorney from Cohen and Wolf, sorry, I'm confusing the two. Commissioner McCann is an attorney and he works with towns on commission, but Attorney Bucksbaum, who's our designated attorney, he actually served on his hometown of Southbury's Charter Revision Commission. So he's also said, hey, and we talked about this, the question. He says, they wanted to put 6 questions on. We were like, you gotta be kidding. And there's Pat, I think they landed on 3 too, actually. 3 feels right to me, but.
Yeah, there's is there enough real estate to fit it on? There's that question. And then there's the issue of if you combine 2 things and one of them's controversial and one of them's not, and you end up losing both. So, yeah, I mean.
I think you also run the risk, which was discussed by the prior commission, that when you break it up and then if 1 fails and 2 go.
That would be a disaster.
Yeah, and then you have like a kind of piecemeal charter now with things don't fit together because only part of it passed and not all of it passed.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to handle that.
Yeah, so that's,
I mean, there'd have to be
trick.
800 questions. But when you
That's
think
a
about
trick.
everything you change,
Well, there are certain discrete things that people have opinions about, like the PE, qualification, like it or not, that might be one of them.
Well, like I said before about the education we need for at least a year to talk about changing the form of government. I'm trying, this is part of the education of educating everyone, kind of what we're doing. I think it might be worthwhile for us to put together maybe some crib sheets or was it not crib sheets?
The explanatory documents which we have to put out.
The town clerk has to do that by law.
Right, yeah.
And if, for example, if we go and look at Connecticut towns and, it's not easy to get the information about who's a PE and who's not, because not everyone puts PE in their name. If they're head of DPW, you actually have to call. So we may have to have an effort to actually call towns.
Yeah. And
a lot of that work was done though before, and it was determined that I don't think there's maybe a handful or less that actually require the PE.
I'll try to dig that up then. Yeah, I don't want to repeat that.
It might be in the old files, it might be in the prior stuff.
There's a whole bunch of issues. We voted on that already. And I think we've got an elegant solution that ties in with HR.
Right. I hope it has something to do with the appropriate qualifications.
It does with it.
If you're a master's in engineering, you should be able to be.
It does.
I mean, that should be enough, right?
It does within. It does within the HR.
Cool.
Realm, right?
Yeah.
So. Okay. Thank you.
So May 8th is that the date for the next public session?
No, May 8th is officially our last meeting.
All right.
No. So between the 8th and the 13th is my deadline to deliver it to the town clerk. Yep. Between those days, we're gonna have to pull out a public session.
Between those 2. And what if you get all this feedback from the public for changes? At your second.
I guess we'd have to delay the end product by a week or whatever. I'm not seeing, I keep getting these emails. They're like, what happens when the public comes? I'm like, the public should have been here for the last, 4 months. There's we've talked about a lot of stuff.
And I think, Chris, to your point, Shelton, and other towns, people don't wake up and, and they don't pay attention. But when they show up to vote, they vote no because they didn't inform themselves. And it's just, it's human nature, right? People don't do the work. They'd rather vote against something they don't understand. And it takes time and effort on behalf of the public to understand.
Yeah.
And you can't make them, unless you send a survey out to every single household. I don't know. I don't know how you do that. I don't think.
Well, I hope this November, there'll be a bunch of signs and there'll be one on my front lawn that says vote for the charter revision rather than the last time where it said don't vote for the charter revision. So that's my
All
hope.
right.
I might have to buy them myself.
Any other questions? If not, one more thank you to you, Chris, and to everyone who's giving themselves and spending time away from family for
I'll
this.
share that with them tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item number 8, refunds to consider and act upon tax refunds is recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $2,089.30. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any debate, discussion,
No.
question? Seeing any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's make this super quick. First selectmen announcements. Gonna poll, gotta unlock my computer here. The 2026 budget, tomorrow, the Board of Finance will commence their budget hearings. That will be available by Zoom or in the conference room at the Board of Ed building, starting at 7 p.m. To start with a presentation by the first selectman, myself, and then moving on to administrative and general, finance, health and welfare, and financial administration. The second item is Friday's special Board of Selectmen meeting. This past Friday, we voted on the feasibility study for Dwight and other potential areas in town where the ECC could be housed, including Mona Terrace and Giant Steps and others. And the bid the RFP was out. The bid was awarded to Svigals, which is a engineering company with we got very, very good feedback on them, and their presentation was superior. So that was approved. That contract was approved, and that work will be starting shortly. And finally, installation of speed cameras and lowered speed signs in school zones. The speed cameras were approved at the last RTM meeting in a bipartisan vote. A lot of concern about mission creep on that, but this was an initiative spearheaded initially by the police, and there are resources and allocation of resources, and what has happened is they went and they got approval to in 6 school zones, got approval to lower the speed limit from 25 to 20 because the speed cameras do not ticket by state law. You have to go over 10 miles over the speed limit. So if you go above 30, then you will get a ticket. That ticket, you don't get points. You won't get your license taken away. It is a monetary ticket, but it is meant to slow people down in sensitive zones like school zones. And I think there was concern that this would, again, creep to other areas of town. There is no plan for that, not even a thought. This will be school zones, and then the second set of applications will be for more school zones. So we have some, only 6 have been covered through this, and between the rest of the school, public and private schools, I think that would be the next 9, I believe. We don't know what that contract's going to look like, but we'll have a contract coming before us from the traffic authority at some point, hopefully in the near future.
Can I ask,
Yes.
are these cameras just gonna be on during school hours? Or are they gonna be on
Yeah, there's
24/7?
specific times. Yeah, it's during, it'll be posted, I'm not sure how long before the school hours and how long after the school hours, but it is meant to be during a band around school hours.
Yeah, I think that's really important because, you know, at the end of the day, if we put them around every school, so we have 11 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 2 high schools, and we have private schools. So, you know, essentially there could be cameras everywhere. And if they're on 24/7, 7 days a week and not just during when the kids are coming and going or when they're there, you know, I think that could pose a bit of a outcry from the public because, you know, I mean, 20 miles an hour is like, you know, you could probably walk faster. You know, it's just, I'm saying during school hours, I think is important. I just think it's important that we understand that, you know, that we could have these all over the town.
Well, the RTM passed the ordinance, but the next step will be the traffic authority going out and looking at the specifics with a vendor. I guess, you know, may go out to bid. I would assume they'll go out to bid, but then a contract would have to come before us and you'll have a chance to
Okay.
vote on it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that they're going to be during, you know, when students are arriving while they're there and when, you know, and that they're going to be off after school hours.
They're on,
But they're not ticketing.
will ticket, but the speed limit will change.
Right, okay. So there will be on, okay, thank you. The plan is that they will be on, but the speed limit changes
During school hours.
during school hours to the lower school hour
So
mile
they're
per
going
hour.
to be on after school for the set speed limit of that road.
Yes.
I mean, it can be. I don't think we have we don't have a plan yet for them. We just approved the use of them.
Right.
So
I mean, listen,
and-
I think, you know, I'm concerned about that because that to me would, I think, spark some concern in our town for like a money grab situation. You know,
Yeah,
driving
I
at
think-
10 o'clock at night, you know, down past a school, you know, say, for example, Dwight or Burr or wherever. And you know, you're going 32 miles an hour or whatever the regular speed limit is, and you're going a little bit over. I mean, these are things I think that need to be flushed out and shared with the public because you know,
yeah,
whacking our residents for some serious money.
yeah. And I would recommend that the public and yourselves, you know, when these come up for discussion at the Fairfield Traffic Authority, and when the contracts come up for debate, that people need to really come out and voice their opinions and provide public comment.
Okay, thank you.
We're kind of depending on the public to do that. So, okay, yes.
For the feasibility study, just gonna keep on asking for updates at this meeting. I think at one point there was talk about updates on the website. I don't know if the working groups had a chance to think about how they're gonna share information out. But just moving that forward, there was some talk of a pseudo building committee as a means of.
Yeah,
maybe-
and
yeah.
you're gonna help, you can help me form that.
Sure, I mean, we
We need to move forward. We need
yeah,
to
just
move forward with that.
just really
That was a
ask,
promise
just
that we-
asking as using our meeting as a venue right now, being that this is where the town working.
Yep,
Not looking for a big discussion, but just putting it.
we made that promise and that we just have to do it. So, I have no other items, so, I have a motion to, adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
or I'm sorry, item number 10, any announcements?
No, Bill, I would just say though, you know, based on what we were just talking about, when the traffic authority meets or, you know, when this contract is, you know, hammered out before, you know, as much leeway at time as we can, have your PR person really plug this out there on social media everywhere to say that here it is, here's the information, because I think it's important, because I feel like, you know, listen, I sat there, you're gonna get slammed if people didn't get a chance to weigh in on it. I think it's important and we have, the town does have a PR person now, so I don't see.
Yeah, a communications director.
Yeah, well, communicate to the public about this, and
I think that's a good idea. Yes.
Okay,
that's
thank
good.
you. That's all.
Yes,
Just for the public, you did announce about the budget that the Board of Selectmen did make some adjustments, and all that information is on the budget page on the town website if people just want to follow along. We're still getting some emails from parents about the ed budget specifically, and just want to put it out there that we've already voted. And as you reported, the budget is now with the Board of Finance. I hope everyone will continue to stay as engaged as they've been to date, and it's really nice having a full room for our meeting.
okay, ready, is that it?
That's it.
Okay, motion to adjourn,
Second,
all in favor, say aye.
aye.
All right, adjourn, thank you, Brenda.
Take care. Have a good night, everyone.
You
You
too.
too.